Crystal Tower Information Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
Cirrus 86 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Cirrus weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Yankee 53 on over tower, roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Departure 71143, flying flag, runway 28 left, clear for takeoff, left hand southbound first.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, have your flight.
What's going on, everyone? Jim here with the Flying Midwest podcast. We're coming at you from Oshkosh 2023. On this episode, we sit down with the CEO of Cirrus, Zean Nielsen. He'll talk to us about the roots of the company, their aircraft, and their newly announced private pilot training program. All from the Cirrus tent at Airventure 2023. So strap in and let's take off for this special edition of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Flying Midwest podcast. My name is Maddie. I'm here with Jim, and we are live at Oshkosh.
How you doing?
Whew, sweaty, hot, but having fun. How are you doing?
Same. Very much the same.
So right now we are, again, live from Oshkosh. We have a lot of content coming for you in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. This is the first of many episodes that we will be releasing. Today we had the opportunity to speak with some people from Cirrus and demonstrate their new private pilot program.
That's right. At this year's Airventure on Monday, they made the big announcement that they're introducing their own private pilot program that consists of all the standard things you'd expect from a private pilot program, but geared towards Cirrus and standardization.
We also had the privilege of speaking with the CEO of Cirrus, Zean Nielsen.
Yeah, that's going to be an exciting conversation we'll bring you in a few minutes, where he talks not about just the private pilot program, but also Cirrus as a whole, their beginnings, and just their fleet of aircraft that are available to pilots out there. So that'll be a fun conversation we'll bring you in just a few minutes. But before I do that, so Maddie, you also had the opportunity to run through some of their new products with Alex. Tell us a little bit about that and how that experience felt for you.
So, like Jim said, the private pilot program from Cirrus is a completely integrated, fully Cirrus-centric flight training program. And the way that works is that there's both an online school and it integrates with flight training. So this is all online and can be taken whenever, wherever. Cirrus has pulled out all the stops with this one. They have completely rewritten a lot of the material that is generally used for the private pilot rating, including the entire PHAC. So the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge has been transformed into the Cirrus Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. The PHAC is now the CHAC. So they have completely rewritten the program to be very Cirrus-centric, to make everything streamlined, understandable, and to have a timeline. So I got to demonstrate a little bit of the program and how it works. It is very integrated, and there is a lot of interactivity with the program. Is that the word you were thinking of?
It was, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It just came out of my brain. I got to test this out myself. Although the avionics in these airplanes are very similar to the Garmin G1000, it does have some unique features that are, well, unique to Cirrus. I got to learn their system via their program. It was pretty cool. I also got to sit in a simulator of sorts. It took me through some buttonology and putting in flight plans, that sort of thing. And then I got to test it in the Vision Jet simulator and how they integrate that and how they transition people from the SR line to the SF line. So that was pretty cool, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to do that. That was really fun.
So yeah, the way that it looks from, me as the bystander watching and taking photos and video and stuff, there's basically the idea being three different sections of each lesson, so to speak. So you've got the interactives that they talked about with us, where you start out on an iPad and there's prompts and things like that. Then you move into the same type of scenario on the iPad where the prompts are more delayed to see if you are able to get that buttonology. And then you move into more of a panel that is identical to what you would have in the airframe that you're flying, and do that same buttonology there. before you get in the airplane. So the idea being you go through these 3 different steps and you're saving time, not running up the hobs while you're trying to figure out buttonology.
Exactly. In the world of today, we have a very big focus on avionics and the controlling the cockpit. So this cockpit management system is essentially what this is, and teaching pilots to understand is actually going to make the training more streamlined and more understandable, because flying the plane isn't hard. Figuring out what the plane is doing is the harder part. So it's really cool to see what Cirrus has and how they are streamlining even just the process of buying an airplane. So we will talk about that also in a little bit with Sean.
So without further ado, we'll jump over to our interview with Cirrus CEO Zean Nielsen. So I will get us started here. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and the opportunity to talk a little bit more about Cirrus. As with us obviously being a Midwest podcast, and there's very strong roots to your company within Minnesota, the Midwest, North Dakota. So again, thank you so much for being part of that.
No problem. Thanks for being here.
On that, can you tell us a little bit about the story of how Cirrus got started in the history?
Sure. So I think we were founded in 1984. I think actually I know that, for a fact. But obviously, they began tinkering with various projects before that. But the actual founding of the company was in Baraboo, Wisconsin, in 1984, by 2 brothers, Alan and Dale Klapmeyer. And like so many sort of startups, it started in not in a garage but in a barn, and then they soon outgrew that and moved to Duluth and Grand Forks. There was some seed money from both cities interested in sort of helping a company start up and so forth, and that's one of the reasons why we ended up in 2 different states. So we make our composite material in Grand Forks. So wings and fuselage and all that stuff, and then we assemble it all in Duluth, and we fly it down to Knoxville, where we today deliver all the airplanes, and we do all the training and like basically all the customer facing stuff usually takes place down in Knoxville.
Okay. So within the Midwest, how many employees do you think you have between Duluth and Grand
So the
Forks?
total number of employees worldwide is about 2,500 people.
Oh wow.
But we have essentially in the last 2.5 years almost doubled it. So we've hired more than 1,000 people in the last 2 years alone. The vast majority are in the campus in Grand Forks and Duluth. So I think we're about 1,600 people in Duluth and about 500 in Grand Forks, and then 250 or so, 300 down in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then the rest is sort of spread out. But the vast majority are in North America.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of models do you guys have available for your customers?
So we've got essentially 2 platforms, but 4 models. So the 2 platforms is the SR series, and then we've got the Vision Jet, which is the jet. So within the SR series, we've got the SR-20, which was the first airplane we launched back in the day, more than 20 years ago now. And then later on came the 22, which essentially is the same airframe but a bigger and more capable engine, so it can carry more, go faster, and so forth. And then later on came the 22T, which is a turbo, and that can actually go to 25,000 feet and has oxygen on it. It's not pressurized, but it's got like cannulas and oxygen. And then in 2016, we launched the Vision Jet. And in 2017, so basically the first year after its arrival, we won the Collier Award for the Vision Jet, which is essentially is sort of the Super Bowl of aviation, if you will, where companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and us and NASA and everybody sort of competes for this like prestigious trophy, which is all about advancing aviation or safety within aviation or aerodynamics, or so basically it's really advanced stuff. And we won for the Vision Jet because we were the first single engine jet that put a parachute on the airplane. So that was sort of like it's difficult to do if you think about like something that's going like 300 miles an hour through the sky, weighing several thousand pounds, and like bringing that to a halt safely, right, without passengers inside, coming across any harm, and then gently sitting them down on the ground. I guess from an engineering perspective, really, really hard to do. You could imagine like just the unfolding process and slowing it down, right? Yeah. It's just an enormous amount of pressure on the airframe. So, but we continue to sort of evolve and add on to them, and so the platforms are really never sort of stale, if you will. Like, for instance, we just launched sort of 2 new features on the jet. One of them is a more advanced radar, and the second feature is Cirrus IQ, which essentially is this little app that allows us to remotely connect to the aircraft and get data around like the last flight, fuel, oxygen, any sort of vital signs on the aircraft. Essentially now, it's kind of like a Tesla. We have like a pipe, where we can communicate back and forth to the airplane remotely.
Very nice. So what is the most popular model that you have at the moment?
So it's a good question. The highest volume is in the 22T. Okay. Which is fantastic. It's the highest trim level that we have within the SR portfolio. But we could probably, so that's about, I think, 55% of the volume out of the 3 SKUs. Oh, wow. I can get you the exact numbers, but it's really the most popular one. And part of that is a lot of our customers over the years sort of graduate from the SR20 to the 22T. From the SR20 to the 22 to the 22T. As their mission capabilities improve, like they become more advanced pilots, they want to fly further. So they sort of start out at an SR20, move up to a 22, move up to a 22T, and then hopefully into the to the Vision jet. So because of the we've been around for some 20 years delivering airplanes or more. A lot of our customers have sort of graduated up into the 22T, so that's one of the reasons why. Plus, it's just a fantastic airplane to fly. It's really fun and fast. So that's the most coveted model in that sense. Followed by the 22, and then the SR20. But the SR20 is also, you could say, production constrained. Today, we're producing roughly 600 airplanes per year across all the four models. So we can only fit in so many of the SR20s. If we were not production constrained, we could probably add more. Like, there's a higher demand for SR20s than we're currently fulfilling. Okay.
So, do you plan to do that in the future?
Expand production, yeah. So we right now are fortunate enough to have like a 2-year backlog. So essentially everything we can produce the next 2 years is more or less sold. So we are expanding our production capabilities methodically, because obviously you never know what the future holds in terms of recessions and other things. But but we are expanding every year our production capabilities to basically not say no to anybody. Right?
What sets the Cirrus aircraft apart from other general aviation aircraft?
I think a lot. It's a really good question. So we're known for being the plane with the parachute. So that's definitely one. Like, we are the only certified general aviation aircraft with a parachute on it. There are other experimental aircraft that are tinkering with parachutes, but we're the only certified one. So that's definitely one big thing. Another big thing is this idea of having a connected experience, like Cirrus IQ, where this man-machine interface of remotely communicating with the aircraft is unique to us. There are other solutions like that out there, but not quite connecting the ecosystem, because we really want you to come to us and be sort of service like a one-stop shop. Like today, general aviation, you have to be really, really enthusiastic about wanting to own an airplane or learning how to fly. Right? Sure. So it's sort of a known statistic that about 80% of people that start their PPL, their private pilot license, never finish it because they sort of plateau, or they get fatigued, or life events happens and so forth. We'd like to flip that around, right? So that 80% come through. So that's one of the reasons why we have launched our PPL program. Basically a whole syllabus that you can come to us. We will take you from never have flown an airplane before all the way through your training, and then into a Cirrus aircraft afterwards, right? The other bit that sort of is unique about us, like, we help facilitate financing, insurance, maintenance, as I mentioned, training, like, so everything you need to make the airplane experience so similar to just owning a car. Like, that's really we will have arrived, meaning successfully at the day we make it feel exactly like owning a car. Like driving it, owning it, getting your driver's license, all that kind of stuff, because then it's familiar to everybody and it's not so frightening, right? It's just a car with wings, right? That's essentially what we need to get to. And I think that's what makes us unique, where other OEMs sort of make the airplane and then they just send it out into the world and somebody else does all the other things.
Sure.
Which is cumbersome. It's really, like you can't just walk down to your local, Chase or Bank of America and say, hey, can you finance an airplane for me? Like they don't necessarily do that. Same with your, Allstate might not just insure your aircraft, right? So you got to really piece it all together, and we're trying to make it simple in an ecosystem. So I think that's another thing that makes us different.
It's a one-stop shop then, trying to get all that done.
Yep.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. So there's that, and then depending on if you get up into the jet, we have safe return. So I don't know how much you know about safe return, but essentially,
It's actually going to be my next question.
Right. So safe return is essentially the ultimate safety package, right? When you pair that with the umbrella, the parachute.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we think about it is, if the pilot becomes incapacitated, a passenger can push that button, and the plane will autonomously land itself. If the plane is broken, you can pull the parachute, right? So you have sort of the ultimate, safety package for any scenario that could occur. So what I think is so fantastic about the safe return is how we have implemented the technology. And there are a couple of other OEMs that are tinkering with the technology also. They have chosen to put it up on the dash. Right?
Okay.
So you can imagine if the unthinkable happens and the pilot becomes incapacitated. Now the passenger will have to climb over somebody and find that thing. Maybe you're in the middle of a dive. It's not very convenient, right? So whereas we put it right above the passenger, anybody can reach it. You don't even have to unclick from your safety harness, right, or your seatbelt, right? So it's not just about implementing technology; it's about how you do it that makes a difference. So that's one thing. So in a second or less than a second, the airplane, once you push the button, will find the most suitable runway. Not just any runway, but the most suitable one. So let's say you're flying over the ocean and there's 200 miles to shore. It will calculate how much fuel it's got in the wings, and within that range, find the most suitable runway, and then it will navigate around weather, terrain, anything that essentially is in its way, and find a suitable runway where the winds are acceptable, where the runway is long enough to actually brake on it and so forth, and stop on the runway so the passenger can just open the door and get out. I think that's very unique also. But now we're into the jet category, obviously. But that's just how we think about general aviation. There's only so many people that think about flying, right? So we gotta take down all those barriers, right? And one of the first things that people think about is safety.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. If I'm gonna put my children in it or my spouse in it, what do I have to have in place, right? In case something happens to the pilot. Because you can't assume your passengers know how to fly, right? So that's it's just about how we think about airplanes. You'll also see that our airplanes sort of have a glass cockpit. It reminds you of an iPad when you're up front, right?
Sure.
And it's something that's familiar, where a lot of other companies will have a bunch of dials, all these switches and things like that, and it's frightening to people to sit up in the front seat, next to the pilot. What if my purse, hits one of the buttons, or what if my kid inadvertently kicks it with their feet or something like that. So we have a philosophy of every button that is on the airplane has to earn its way in. If we can automate it, if we can get rid of it and put it into the avionics package, we try and do that just to simplify it. There's no reason somebody has to flip a switch if we can automate it.
An exciting thing that you guys have introduced at Airventure this year is your new private pilot program. So talk to us about that program itself, the development of it, how you guys came up with it, things like that.
Sure. It's a great question. So I joined the company, 4.5 years ago. And one of the things I asked our chief pilot about was, okay, so right? And you never know when you're done, right?
Okay.
So and I think that's why about like 80% of people like really give up.
Yeah,
right? You
absolutely.
start this process. It's so like what do I do next? You know, where should I? First of all, which syllabus should I sign up for? Should I pick Sporties or Kings or whatever that's out there? Then you got to make a decision. Okay, once I've decided to do that, what kind of airplane do I want to learn to fly in? You know, is it a Cirrus or a Cessna or a Piper or whatever? Then you got to find a flight school that's close to you. Then you got to find an instructor that's not going to be at another flight school 5 months from now, right? Because it might take you a while to get through the syllabus. Then you got to decide how much time you put into it, and like. So something that can be relatively compact is spread out over a long period of time, right? And I don't think it should be like that. It should be like you should be able to go deposit like your coin, in the machine, and say, all right, I can dedicate 3 hours a week to this, and if I just do that and I follow the syllabus, when am I done? Like, so very predictable. If I just follow this and I'm of average intelligence and like motor skills, then all right, then I should be done, right? Yes, because then people could just, can fit it into their busy lives, right? So that was like, goal number one. Goal number two was when you fly, or when you learn to fly and you use, Sporties or Kings or something like that, which are all great. They might have one module where the demonstration airplane is a Cessna, and another module where it's a Piper, right?
Yeah.
And or a Diamond or a Cirrus or whatever. So yes, you get your driver's license or your pilot license, but you don't become an expert in the plane that you will actually fly.
Sure.
Right. So for that reason, we want all the content to be all Cirrus, right? So that not only are you getting your pilot's license, you're also becoming very, very familiar with your own aircraft, right? Stall speeds, approach speeds, avionics package, like all that it's very usable afterwards. So that was like reason number two, and then of course, actually reason number one is safety. Like, so we believe that if we can teach you from the ground up, like you will be better, in a Cirrus, right? So sometimes pilots develop bad habits. We all do, right? In life,
right?
And those have to be unlearned, right? When you, in some cases, unlearned, right? When you fly a Cirrus. For instance, you land at a faster, pace, right? So if you're coming in, you're used to landing at 60 knots, 65 knots an hour. Well, that's stall speed for us, right? Like, so that's a habit you don't want to carry forward, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So safety was our primary focus. Then obviously this predictability was a secondary focus, and then three, making you an expert in the Cirrus, right? Rather than just sort of general knowledge of a bunch of airplanes. So those were the three main reasons why we did it. And then the fourth one is really, we believe that our way to grow as a company is to create pilots, right? So in the market that we play, essentially, tricycle gear, piston airplane, we today, if you look at gamma statistics, probably have 46% market share, something like that. And every year we grow, and take additional market share. And if we keep at this pace, we will eventually run out of customers to sell to, right? So we need to create a bigger pie, right? So to create a bigger pie, you got to make pilots, right?
Yeah.
So that's a fourth motivating reason for the PPL program. Okay. Like, helping more people get through that funnel. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
It did.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay.
How long did it take to develop that program? I can't imagine that's just an overnight, like, we're going to do this.
Yeah, it a lot of work went into it, and we have an incredible team, both of pilots and technical people that can put it all together. But equally important is a lot of our customers, they have been off the school bench, for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? And adults learn different than young people. Like, young people can sit in a classroom 8 hours a day, right? That's just what they've been conditioned to. That is not how, our generation, learns. Right? We get fatigued differently. We consume data differently. We like doing rather than reading, and like all this stuff, right? So we didn't want to just, create another sort of Me Too product out there. So we took probably 3.5, 4 years to make the whole thing. Now, before we had something called Cirrus Embark and Cirrus Approach. So that's basically our learning management system. And on there we had a bunch of content already. So part of the content we've developed over many years. And then we layered on a bunch of other things to make a complete syllabus. Right? And now we've connected it all into like a learning platform where it's online and all that stuff. But the real drive, I want to say probably 3 years, and I think we spent more than $4 million on developing it. Yeah, because I might be a little off on the numbers here, but I think there is 11 modules with 40 video classes on it. Right, so we had to shoot every scene. We had to do it all essentially, right, in a Cirrus. So I can get you the exact numbers, but it's a lot of video content. And the way we wanted to do it was sort of bite-sized chunks where you do 15 minutes, 20 minutes of learning, some hands-on tests, and then you go out and you practice it with your instructor, right? So this you take the information, you show proficiency in it, right, and you build on that. So yeah, it's exciting. And our own staff, so we have a flying club. So when you become an employee, we basically offer you the opportunity to learn how to fly. So our own staff have been guinea pigs in the program. So we feel pretty good about it works. It's people like it. It's very sort of gamification oriented. So
sure.
Yeah.
So is the ground school? I assume it's like a traditional ground school.
Essentially.
Is it FAA? Meets all the FAA requirements?
Yep. So, I mean, obviously you have to go take the actual test at the end of the FAA, but everything gets you there.
Excellent.
Yep.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, we obviously introduced it here at OSH. A few months earlier, we shared it with the network, so they had a couple of months to sort of look into it, help us refine it further before we made it sort of publicly open. But yeah, it's awesome. The goal again is to invert that pyramid of only 20% making it through to 80% making it through, right? So we'll see. One other thing that's unique about it is when you sign on, you have an opportunity to search for an instructor at the same time and add an instructor to it, right?
Nice.
So, and I think that's one of the things that is challenging for people today. So when you decide to become a pilot, there's essentially 4 things that have to sort of match up, right? Your calendar with the calendar of your instructor, and available aircraft. There's always maintenance events and stuff like that, or somebody else is using it, and good weather. It's 4 things, right, that have to constantly align, and they never do. So part of our program is when you sign up with us, there are multiple instructors that are available, and they can all look at where you are in your training status, right? So they can quickly go online and see, you've taken these modules, all right, so you might have trained with Peter yesterday. Peter's not available today, Paul is. He can quickly see, okay, this is where you left off, and I can take over and continue progressing rather than going all the way back and starting over, right? So this idea of continuity and coaching is there. So there's sort of, if you want to, an instructor sort of shadowing the process and also nudging you if you haven't taken any modules for a while. So that should be a good outcome.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So obviously you just released this, so we're not going to press too hard. But you guys have been doing a lot in the last couple of years. But do you have anything exciting that you can share that you're trying for the future?
So we've made a habit of not talking about new product launches, but aside from that, really,
is fine.
Yeah,
and you just did one, so there's that.
So we always try to innovate on all the platforms to make them current, relevant, and connected, and so forth. What our big focus is right now is building out that ecosystem, so that we are this one-stop shop, right? So that you can learn how to fly with us, finance, insure, do all that kind of stuff, and then if you want that new car smell or that new airplane smell after 3-4 years, then we can help you trade it in and trade up to the next thing. Right? So basically also sort of adding that piece of the equation. So for us, it's all about making it easy, convenient, safe, and affordable to fly. And I think a lot of people don't really appreciate, like if you really travel a lot, it actually could be cheaper to fly personal than commercial.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I just flew from Knoxville yesterday into here. The commercial, like coach ticket, was $500 like one way down here, right? And in most cases, you can't go straight into Appleton, which is where we flew in. You'd have to go to like Chicago and then a smaller plane here. And So it's really inconvenient. Lots of time, is lost. There were 5 of us in the plane. Like we were in the jet, in the Vision jet. So essentially, to book that same trip would have been $2,500 in commercial tickets, and probably taken us a half a day at least to get there, right? Because of all these hopping back and forth. The equivalent cost in a Vision jet is $750 per hour, and it took us an hour and a half to fly down here. So call it like $1,000.
Yeah.
As opposed to $2,500 commercially. So it is if you maximize the seats, it could actually be as cheap or cheaper than flying not even business class but commercial, which is kind of amazing.
Well, I suppose in you guys' situation, time is money. So the time that you're doing all that stuff at the airport for a commercial flight,
it is.
You're not, developing new programs for Cirrus.
Yeah, true. But even, that's true for our customers too, right?
Yeah.
We have lots of customers who have businesses, and they need to be, at let's say it's a car dealership that has multiple, branches in different states. This idea of, rolling out of bed in the morning, 8 o'clock, fly to one state, have a meeting, fly to another state, have another meeting, and be home for dinner at 6 o'clock is possible. Lots of customers do it, right? And you save the hotel night, you don't have to spend 2 days on it, like you can be in and out. So that's the Cirrus life that we talk about, that we really want to make easy, right? So there's the aircraft ownership part of it. There's the safety, there's the hangaring and storing and financing and maintenance and all that stuff. So we're just trying to make that whole equation really easy. Almost like your Apple iTunes, ecosystem. That's probably a lofty goal, but that sort of, why not? Why shouldn't it be that easy?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's thought that way. It's really for how long aviation has been around, relatively so, not too long, but there are a lot of manufacturers and a lot of people out there making airplanes and stuff, and I don't think anybody's been as bold to make that jump of why shouldn't it be easy? Because aviation has always been, this is pretty difficult. If you can make it through, you're in. Good job.
Yeah, it's true. Part of it is it's incredibly capital intensive, right? It's very expensive to build all that stuff.
Of course.
And making money on airplanes to begin with, just the airplane part is hard, right? Which is why so many of these airplane companies go up market, right, to make jets and bigger things where you can be profitable, right? So it's really hard to make money, below, let's call it $1.5 million in price, and on top of that, build out all that infrastructure. So, and then I think the industry for so many years have just been very driven by enthusiasts, that they're okay with the difficulty of it all. Like it's almost like a badge of honor, to make it through, right? Yeah. And that's cool. That's so cool, and hats off to them. But that is not how we make the industry bigger, right? As an industry, like we need to make it easy to fly and safe, right? And that's why having the parachute, right? Having the safe return features, like just make it easier, right? There's lots of other features that we want to roll out in the future that further improve safety. So that's what we're focusing on. Not so much what's the next new product. It's like basically how do we make it safer and more convenient to fly.
Yeah.
I think you'll attract a lot of people who is like, flying sounds cool, but those kinds of people.
And then you try it, right? And then you get in front of a Cirrus and you experience how easy it is. And you realize that once you hit autopilot, like really you're controlling the airplane with some dials. It's not really stick and rudder at that point. Obviously takeoff and landing is, but like flying has changed, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. Cool.
Is there anything else that you want to cover before we wrap up that we haven't thought to ask you?
There's so much going on in the company. So we just opened, or will open here in a few short weeks, our new innovation center in the Midwest, which is in Duluth. So we acquired a building across the runway next to the campus that we have in Duluth, where 300 engineers are going to lift and shift from one building in the manufacturing building over into a 200,000 square foot facility that used to be an old mRNO building that we have repurposed to our new innovation center. So basically, it's sort of like you don't have to go to Silicon Valley if you want to be in aviation, not in aviation, but in sort of innovation in that sense. You can do that right here in the Midwest and in Duluth. So that's going to be really exciting, and that's obviously where new future programs and products are going to be developed.
That's exciting.
So that's exciting, and it frees up about 75,000 square foot of production space. So we can continue to expand the production capabilities. So,
Sure.
Yeah. So there's lots and lots of stuff.
No kidding.
Yeah. So good. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you sitting down with us and
You're welcome.
sharing a little bit more about Cirrus.
Yeah. My pleasure. The more people that get into flying, the better. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again to Zean Nielsen for graciously allowing us to interview him for the podcast.
Yeah, it was a really good conversation, really informative, and it was great to have that opportunity to chat with him about all the serious things that are going on. So a huge thank you to him, but I also want to say thank you to Nadia, who is with Cirrus, who helped us arrange all of this, and their hospitality was fantastic through this experience. So
Absolutely.
a big thank you goes out to the folks at Cirrus.
So if you like what we do and you would like to converse with us or have any suggestions, ideas, or you want to come on the podcast, you can contact us on any of our social media. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and we have a Gmail.
flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com.
If you really, really like what we do, consider becoming a patron. We are on Patreon.
Your support helps us create this content for all of you and bring it to you and helps cover some of the costs that are associated with creating a podcast.
And not only that, for your contribution, you will have exclusive access to a lot of our bonus content and to some of our blog content as well.
Check it out.
Yeah, you better. Well, it's been fun, but I think this episode, unfortunately, like all good things, must come to an end.
That's right. And we have more Oshkoshing to do, and more of that will come to your ears in the near future. So be sure to check that out. We'll also have some video content that we're collecting and some video interviews. So make sure you check all that stuff out on our YouTube as well as anywhere you get our podcasts. So
Until next time,
see ya.
see ya!
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35 today.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.